this excerpt from the Ben and Ryan Show, Ben Nadel and Mark Takata each pick their favorite feature in the upcoming CF 2025 release. I'll give you a hint. It's all about Adobe ColdFusion continuing to push the code efficiency and quality of life for developers. 2025 beta coming out. We didn't mention this. There is a webinar from Karasoft. I'll put a link in the show notes about this. It's coming up on November 19th. And so you can sign up for that if you want to know all the features. And then we'll also, as Mark, you mentioned a couple times, Charby will be on our show. It'll be recorded here in a couple of weeks, and we'll figure out when it launches, probably a couple of days after that. So probably right around the time of the beta, or maybe a week after, you'll see our show drop, where she will go into some of that.
That'll be nice too. And I've mentioned a few of the features here. Charby will deep dive into kind of a lot of what that means. I'm sure she'll have a demo.
Do you have one standout feature, which is like people will be running to 2025?
I can tell you my absolutely favorite feature, which is the CVE read write process stuff.
The CSV.
Sorry, CSV, CVE. Yeah,
CSV. I was gonna say the same thing. I'm so excited about that.
No. CSV. I have written by hand so many stupid parsers for CSVs in my life. Like, I was just ready to flip a table, and this one, it's just like, what do you want it in? You want it in the query? Bam! Like, it's so pretty and so useful. Like, it's an immediate upgrade. Like, I can think of dozens and dozens of apps where I could just rip out, pages of code, and then it's like, a couple lines.
What's funny? I feel like as an industry, we keep trying to fight the fact that text is like the perfect interchange format.
Yeah.
And it gets very poo-pooed as this old idea, like, oh, we were doing CSVs back in the 90s. Like, that can't possibly be what we should still be using. And yet I feel like it's time to just accept the fact that it's amazingly easy to use, and it's super powerful, and it compresses really well. And it's just amazing.
Well, my favorite thing is, like, people are like, why are you using comma separated values, man? Like, why would you use that? I'm like, all right, well, what are you going to use? JSON. Really?
I feel like if you're, as long as financial software is generating CSVs, the world will continue to run on CSVs.
Well, and there's this like feeling as a developer that anything that has to do with Excel is somehow evil. I feel that, like, so many people just get like angry, like, what? You do all of your work on Excel? What are you doing? You're going to kill your business. It's like, well, I mean, yes, maybe. But we're a $2.5 billion company, and we're doing pretty good right now, right?
Yeah, Excel's pretty powerful.
It's incredible, right?
Yeah.
And it's being able to work alongside it and integrate with it is a much better, because we're not going to beat it at this point. No, like I think we should just sort of wave the white flag and be like, yep, let's work together, guys. Because
absolutely.
You know what's crazy though is, so going to Excel just for a second.
Yeah.
I'm an Excel geek. I play around with it a lot. My CF Summit presentation, I actually gave a bunch of Excel tips as I was going through some of the information. But when you try and save a file as a CSV file, you've got to scroll through. There are some not standard CSV formats that are higher on the list than your standard CSV.
Yeah.
I'm like, why can't that be like underneath Excel format? Like, it should be Excel, standard CSV, and then like all the rest of the stuff. Anyway.
Yeah.
That's the thing that drives me crazy. I know that marketing is always not the most straightforward craft. But there's one product that I always hear advertised on podcasts. It's like a SaaS product where all they do is parse CSVs for you and give you, I guess, a normalized data set. And they talk about how parsing CSV is like, oh, it's such dirty data and it's garbage most of the time and it's poorly formatted. And I always think to myself, but CSV is a format. Like, you can't just throw text in a file and call it a CSV. Like, it has to, the whole point is that it follows a format. Who's generating badly formatted CSV?
Not normalized. I mean, that's like complaining that a database is not normalized and then blaming the fact that it's in SQL or something. Like no, like fix your stuff. Like don't suck.
Yeah, I think with that, it's where they'll put in like longer descriptions, which with breaks in it, and that'll, if not done right, that'll break the CSV
and
translation.
escape characters and
Yeah.
there's a lot of things that CSVs have as limits, but every
you
single
can escape.
form
There's an escape for something.
there's ways around it, and part of being a good developer is understanding how to work within the context that you're in, the constraints of the system that you're working with, right? Exactly the same with CSVs. Like you can make CSVs do amazing things. You just have to know what you're doing.
So this was your favorite feature.
Yeah.
So for those who have not seen any of these webinars yet, and so they can relate to this and get your excitement, what does it? What's the big what's been enhanced with this way it handles CSVs?
Okay, so what's been enhanced is that it didn't used to handle that. So back in the day, if you were dealing with spreadsheets, you would import an Excel and then be able to deal with it. It didn't really recognize CSV as a spreadsheet because, spoiler alert, it's not, right? Like when you pull it into Excel, it looks like a spreadsheet, but it's not. It's a text-based normalized format, right? But now there are actual built-in functions that you can say, okay, here's a CSV, and you can put in like here's the escape characters, here's what the actual like separation value character is. There's all kinds of different things that you can put in to make sure that you don't get junk data back or whatever. And then you could say, give it to me in like 7 different types of formats, whether that's an array of structs, a query, right? You can pull back exactly what you need so that you don't have to do all of the, jumping through hoops that you used to be able to do. And to that fact, I have used so many of Ben's blogs to like take this stuff and parse it and then loop through the parsed stuff and then put that into an array and jump through like all these hoops. You don't have to do that anymore.
Plus, I think one of the things that Charby was saying, if I recall correctly, is that it uses a streaming model under the hood. So if you have a 4 gigabyte CSV export from some system, you're not loading 4 gigabytes of text into memory to parse it. You're doing some sort of, I don't know, file line read or something.
That's my second favorite.
Tweet.
That's my second favorite feature. So the streaming. So there's 2 other like big spreadsheet things. One is the streaming, and that actually came from a good friend of mine who works for the federal government, and their financial Excel spreadsheets are enormous. Just, I mean, ridiculously huge Excel spreadsheets. When they try to process them, it kills the server. Basically, like they literally cannot do it. No matter how big they make the server, it doesn't work, right? So what they were doing was they were chunking themselves, right? They put in a hack where they would just chunk it, process the chunks, and then put them all back together. So we added a feature where essentially you have a memory frame, and you stream into the memory frame, you do whatever you need to do, and then you pass that to wherever you need to pass it. If you're writing back to another Excel, then it writes back to that Excel. If you're putting that into a database, it puts it into a database. Whatever you want to do inside of that frame, that is also available as an asynchronous processing thing. So if you want to send that off, if you don't want it to be blocking, you can send that off and run it in the background and have an async thread handle it as well. So really cool stuff. A little hard to demo again. Like I swear it's working. It's in the back. But it does work. It's funny too when we talk about performance improvements. That's one of my favorite things because it's like, okay, to process this in the past was infinite because it wouldn't work. To do it now is 25 seconds, right? Like, because you're able to actually like run through it and efficiently do it. What would happen is it would just clog. It would clog the memory, and then everything else that needed memory to do anything just wouldn't have it, and eventually something would time out.